Good evening and welcome to News Review. A need for a robust health and safety strategy was identified by Unite the Union and the government. Both are working in partnership and have established an H&S group in a bid to achieve a safer, more regulated working environment in Gibraltar. This was announced at the Workers' Memorial Day ceremony held at the lobby of Parliament last week.
The ceremony was a solemn occasion, focusing on remembrance and reflection, an opportunity to commemorate those who've died at work and ensuring tragedies like these are not repeated. The Chief Minister, Fabian Picardo, also used the occasion to pay tribute to the emergency services, highlighting their recent efforts in tackling the fire at the Waterport power station.
Since we started to market, when we were elected and we declared this holiday, we've been very lucky to be able to say that there's been absolutely no serious loss of life, no loss of life or serious injury at work. And I think it's important, therefore, that we continue to make health and safety at work an issue that is at the top of the agenda. That's the only way that we are lucky enough, in inverted commas, not to have that loss of life or serious injury. Government's responsibility is to raise awareness. Of course, the best way for government to act is to lead by example. And where works are being done for government to have a specific priority on health and safety in government offices, to understand the principles on health and safety, and to really therefore become a leader that the private sector can follow, because we demonstrate by that that we are truly committed to these principles.
The international theme this year is protecting workers round the world through strong regulation, enforcement and union rights. Unite believes we still have a long way to go with regards to legislation and procedures. Regional Officer Victor Rochelo says they'll continue to highlight the importance of this year after year.
Unite will fight against austerity control plans that can put lives at risk. No one should be put to unnecessary risk at work. Unite strongly believes that accidents, work-related ill health or deaths are totally unacceptable and can be prevented.
The creation of a health and safety working group in partnership with government was announced. Having been established in December, a certain amount of groundwork has already been covered.
We approached a government in December over the management of Health and Safety Regulation 1996, which advocates the introduction of safety representatives into the workplace. This is one of the union's top aims, and this will go a long way to setting up health and safety committees within each workplace, which hopefully will push a healthier society. One of the areas that we have covered is health and safety policy for the government of Gibraltar. A draft has been given to the government at the moment for their consideration. It needs to be fine-tuned, and hopefully this will be the basis of health and safety here in Gibraltar in the future.
Look after your employees, and your employees will look after you. That was the message from the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health Chairman Richard Labrador, who spoke of the importance of individuals also taking responsibility for their actions to ensure the safety of others. A 1-minute silence was observed with the sounding of the last post. Wreaths were laid at the memorial by a number of guests, including the Governor, Sir James Dutton, the Mayor, Adolfo Canepa, and representatives of the essential services. The Sea Scouts also participated in the event, attracting interest from locals and visitors alike. The message, as in previous years, remember the dead, fight for the living.
Meanwhile, the Chief Minister vowed to meet with trades unions and explore the options for the implementation of an occupational pension scheme for the private sector. Speaking at the May Day rally at Casemates, Mr. Picardo said his government will also be delivering on vocational training as well as health and safety standards in the workplace. In response to recent criticism about inclusion in the event, Unite Regional Officer Victor Cello said in his May Day speech that no one needs to receive an invitation to attend the celebrations at Casemates and that everyone is welcome.
The May Day celebrations brought to Casemates a full program of local entertainment for families, including rock bands, dance groups and choir performances. But, as the first speaker on the day explained, the union rally was the most important part of the day.
Let us all join together and renew our commitment to health and safety as strong unions save lives. And as the slogan says, let us remember the dead and fight for the living. Thank you all.
Taking part in the rally for the first time were representatives of Unite's Youth Committee, Sumaya Akidad and Sebastian Sawyer, both of whom emphasized that an investment in young, skilled workers was also an investment in our community and our economy. Regional Officer Victor Cello said he was hugely proud of the Youth Committee, whom he said were the future of the trades union movement in Gibraltar.
Gratefully to Gillian Beckett, who's now recently being appointed regional officer as well. She's been working many hours in trying to establish this. We now have a committee up and running, and I mean this is the future not only for the trade union movement, but for the entire community. They are the ones that drive, and obviously I look forward that they would be the successors to many of us, you know, who would be retiring pretty soon.
The first of the international guests was David Smith, National Secretary for Blacklisting, who spoke about Unite's struggle against huge corporations whom he said were conspiring against union reps across the country. And Unite UK National Officer Kevin Coyne told the thousands who had gathered at Casemates that Unite would support Gibraltar against the jingoism and overtones of Spain's fascist past, which had affected the ROC so badly in the last few months.
I congratulate you, Gibraltarians, on your perseverance on the border issue, developing a truly international response with a cross-border group, and uniting Spanish and Gibraltar unions in a collective issue opposed to what is going on.
A 5,000-strong petition calling for an occupational pension for the private sector was presented to the Chief Minister. The petition had been signed by members of Parliament, but Mr. Picardo himself hadn't signed it, saying the letter was actually addressed to him. He did, however, commit himself to working together with the unions to pursue the scheme.
Because when we commit ourselves to doing something, we deliver on those commitments. And this year, I'm committing myself to working in partnership with Unite the Union and with all other unions in Gibraltar in the year that's left before the next general election. And in that partnership, we will work together to deliver on vocational training schemes, to deliver on better health and safety at work. And how much am I looking forward to working with the Youth Committee of Unite and to work together to deliver on pensions in the private sector.
Once again, May Day wasn't without its share of controversy. Unite has been accused of having sidelined other unions. GGCA members were seen around Casemates wearing T-shirts reading GGCA, also a union.
Other than the fact of, having not been invited to participate in the May Day celebrations, is actually really to do with the fact that we want to be recognised as a union. We have an overwhelming majority of civil service members, and we have negotiating rights. And really what I think that the main point that we want to make is, in situations where we have negotiating rights, we always want and need to be acknowledged. It's not necessarily, the issue is not necessarily one of credit or praise or even attention in the media. Actually, the point to make is, where you have negotiating rights, you need to be able to work for your members.
But speaking to GBC, the Chief Minister says he's happy to endorse and help fund any events which celebrate May Day or Workers' Memorial Day.
Any union that approaches the government to seek funding to organise an event on the 1st of May will have the government's support. We will fund one organisation between all unions, or we will fund one event per union. Gibraltar could have today 3, maybe 4 events because there are 4 different unions. We have been approached by one and we funded one. I've made very clear to the other unions we would fund their events if they want to have separate events. Of course, look, the socialist family, and then when you're talking about unionists and workers, we are all a family loosely tied together, sometimes with different opinions, needs to reconcile itself together, to work together in order to better defend workers' rights.
And conspicuous by its absence was the GSD opposition, who had stayed away from the event in protest at not having received an invitation from Unite. Nevertheless, the leader of the opposition took to Twitter to wish his followers a happy Workers' Day.
New working hours for the civil service will come into effect on Monday, the 12th of May. As revealed by GBC last week, employees have been given 2 options, one of which involves the same hours all year round, and the other retaining summer hours. Public counters will be open for longer from 8:30 in the morning till 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. The Chief Minister said the new hours will make the government a better employer and provide a better service to the public. The initiative will be complemented by the introduction of e-government measures, many of which will be announced at the end of May.
For the GSLP Liberals, the introduction of new family-friendly working hours was a manifesto commitment and had, as Fabian Picardo described it, been many years in the planning and the wishing. Even before the general election, in fact, when the alliance had already started exploratory talks with the unions. In 2 Mondays' time, the majority of civil servants and other public sector workers will be getting up earlier than they're possibly used to be in the office by 8 if they're on Tier 1, or 8:45 if on Tier 2. Those in the former category will work straight through until 3:30, while the others will finish at 4:30. They will get summer hours, though. The government reckons it's a win-win situation.
Well, we've worked very hard to ensure that the benefits really accrue not just to people who work within the public sector, who are going to benefit from having possibly more family-friendly hours if they leave earlier, or able to continue with their family-friendly hours if they take their children to school at 9 o'clock or 8:45. But the main beneficiaries will be the public, whether it's individuals who want to go to a government counter and will find that instead of the government counter only being open as it is today from 9 to 12:30, it's actually going to be open much earlier from 8:30 until 3 o'clock year-round without any summer hours, or obviously private sector businesses that may also need to interact with the government at the government counter, who will see those hours expanded again. So I think it's a huge gain for people who work within the civil service and a huge gain for those who interact with the government at government counters.
At the scheme's inception, 62% of departments will have some employees on Tier 1 and others on Tier 2. Of the remaining 38%, 30% of officers will have staff exclusively on Tier 2, the one with the later start and summer hours, and just 8% on the Tier 1 hours.
We sincerely don't think that it's going to create any problem at all. Some departments will only be working one tier. Most departments will be working both tiers. But for the general public, again, whether people in business or people who just as individuals need to interact for the government, the window of interaction with the government will be open for longer, whatever tiers are being worked by a particular department, if they have a government counter. And in any event, as we roll out e-government, the first stage starting at the end of May, further stages once we have our EID card, which enables an individual to interact more securely with the government, a lot of that interaction will be online and it will be 24 hours a day.
Once the civil servant chooses his or her hours, are they stuck with that forever, or can they change after a period of time?
They're certainly stuck for a calendar year because they have to work a certain number of hours, and I want to be very clear about this. Civil servants are not going to work less hours in this new system. They're going to work the same hours that they work, but just in a different configuration. So you have to make sure that you work your hours, and we wouldn't be able to accommodate changes within a particular calendar year, unless, of course, there was a sincere problem in somebody's life which we needed to, as a good employer, accommodate. But because of the way the hours are structured, if you're on Tier 2, you'll still have the benefit of summer hours. So you can't have the benefit of summer hours and then at the end of summer decide you want to go onto Tier 1. So it's a little bit complex in that way for the Human Resources Department, who've done a huge amount of work to make this a reality, but they will be able to accommodate changes once a whole year has passed.
The Chief Minister conceded that there may be some teething trouble along the way, but he said the goodwill shown by all sides during the lengthy negotiations augurs well for the scheme's success.